Guys, welcome back to Rocket Guiana, my fellow space tubers. Okay, so today we will be seeing the Ariane 5 launch. Yeah, we have seen the Ariane 5 launch. What is special in this one? Well, you must have known from the thumbnail already that this is the heaviest Ariane 5 you will see which has ever flown. So the payload which it is carrying, it is like the most heaviest one which it has ever carried to space. So this is very interesting. Other than that, there are like 3 milestones which it is covering in this mission, and we will talk about those milestones in a second. But before that, how are you all, guys? Hi Mark, hi Sergio, hi Joe, hi Roy saying yeah. So today this launch has its own significance because obviously this is the final launch before JWST, and they have they have made some modifications in this launcher. As you all know, as I have again said, that this is the heaviest one which is being flown. So it would be very interesting to see how it will perform. Let's hope we will have a successful launch with 100% success, not even a partial success, because that will give us confidence that yes, our JWST will be safe in there. Okay, and those who are wondering that why this Ariane 5 was chosen for JWST and not like Falcon 9 or Falcon Heavy, because they can also deliver JWST to its orbit. Means that it has that payload capacity. The reason being, the JWST has that, what should I say, the volume which it takes in a payload fairing, that is huge. And that huge payload volume is provided by this Ariane 5 fairing, which is pretty large. You can see here from this image only. So yeah, that is one thing. So now let's just get a deep dive into what are the components of this launcher and have a look at it. So Ariane 5, what is it? It is the heaviest launcher for the Arianespace. Yes, the payload capacity is 10 tons to geosynchronous transfer orbit and 20 tons to LEO, which means the low Earth orbit. GTO orbit is nothing but the periapsis could be around like 300-500 kilometers, but the apoapsis is around 36,000 kilometers. It is the orbit which you take before going into a geosynchronous orbit. Okay, so most of the means today first of all, most of the launches which Ariane 5 does, it is of the geosynchronous orbit. Okay, geosynchronous transfer orbit, and today also it is sending 2 sats to geosynchronous transfer orbit. Okay, um first of all, it says that the payload to GTO is around 10 tons. But why am I saying heaviest? Because literally they are exceeding their payload capacity. Today, they will be launching around 10.3 tons to geosynchronous transfer orbit. The combined mass of both the payload is 10.3 tons. This is the first milestone which it will be achieving. The second one is that the the payload fairing, it is actually extended by 1.5 meter. So already it was so huge, you can see there, and now it has been extended by 1.5 meters. So now they have to figure out and recalculate all those calculations before the fairing jettison. Okay, so this is the thing. And the third milestone which it is achieving is the that it is actually having the capacity of carrying 11.3 tons to geosynchronous transfer orbit, because obviously you need that higher payload capacity. Although it is carrying 10.3, but you need that higher payload capacity, first for redundancy, second for obviously to make sure you have enough fuel in it, because you are increasing your payload fairing mass, because it has been extended by 1.5 meter. So you are increasing your payload fairing mass as well as you are increasing your payload mass. So you obviously need some thing to carry on to that, right? So uh, payload is 10.3 tons, and the fuel which it is carrying can support 11.2 tons, but obviously fairing. So yeah, then that you have to see. Now let's have a look at the launcher itself. So this launcher has two solid rocket booster, one core stage which you can see, and then the one upper stage. So it's a very simple looking rocket in terms of configuration. And talking about the solid rocket booster, this is like not the, what should I say, the most powerful solid rocket booster which we have ever witnessed. That is not the case, but yeah, they are pretty huge. They are 30 meters tall and stores around 238 tons of propellant, and they burn for around 130 seconds and deliver more than 90% of the launcher's total thrust at the start of the flight. Yes, that is true. They are not that much powerful, but again it provides, you can see, 92% to be precise, 92% of the thrust during the liftoff. That is the what should I say, the power of these two solid rocket boosters. Obviously SRBs are designed to, you know, just provide that initial oomph and burn off quickly, but with more power. So yeah, that is what you will be seeing. Then obviously it is having that industrial standard HTPB as its fuel for SRB. Now let's have a look at the core stage. Core stage has this Vulcan 2 engine which you can see here. This is the Vulcan 2 engine, and it develops around 1.4 kilonewtons of thrust, maximum thrust in vacuum. Its nozzle is gimbaled for pitch and yaw, and it runs on gas generator power cycle, and it runs on liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen as its fuel, and which is actually evident from the fact that this core stage is pretty huge, right? And whenever you see a core stage being pretty huge with a single engine, most of the time it is the Hydrolox engine, and Hydrolox engine for first stage is not recommended at all. This is a very bad config, but you know, all companies all around the world do that because they know the tech how to make Hydrolox engine. So yeah, why not go with that? So this is the Vulcan 2 engine. So let's have a look at the Vulcan 2 engine. How does it look like? This is how the Vulcan 2 engine looks like. You can see, so there is like Vulcan 1 and Vulcan 2. First of all, this gas generator power cycle is evident from this exhaust pipe, right? And the difference between Vulcan 1 and Vulcan 2 is that this Vulcan 2 is actually regeneratively cooled here, which was not the case for Vulcan 1 engine. So this is the upgradation for that, and because of this upgradation they were actually were able to design a very stable engine, because Vulcan 1 engine's performance was not at all good, but Vulcan 2 exceeded everyone's expectations. So yes, there were some other modification, but the major one was this having this regeneratively cooled nozzle. Then yeah, it runs on Hydrolox as its fuel. Yeah, that is the thing. Now let's have a look at this upper stage. So this is the cryogenic upper stage. You can see this nozzle here. This runs on HM7B engine. It has a very reliable engine from the Ariane 4 family. Produces around 67 kilonewtons of thrust, and it gives roll, pitch and yaw. And yes, it also runs on Hydrolox, and yes, it also has gas generator cycle. So let's have a look at this engine. So this is how this engine looks like. You can see there is no as such regeneratively cooled thing going on in the nozzle, but it is kind of stable, so you don't need that. More likely it is what should I say, that radiatively cooled nozzle. Okay, and the unique thing about this rocket, this engine basically is very what should I say, is actually a downside of it. The unique thing is that it is not restartable. So, and the upper stage not being restartable for a geosynchronous transfer mission is like, you need to be very precise with your launch window as well as your launch parameters, because if you have played KSP, you know that almost all of the players can't get into the even the low Earth orbit without having two burns of uh, the upper stage. And now we are actually talking about the geosynchronous transfer orbit, so wherein you first need to enter the parking orbit around the Earth, low Earth orbit, and then you need to raise the
Good
aquas. But
evening, and
here
thank you
it
all
can't
for
do that,
joining us
because
on Road
here
to Space for the
obviously
launch of the Ariane 5
it
rocket
does
from
not
the
have that
European
capability
Space
of
Center in Kourou, French Guiana.
restart. So
A
um,
flight that will be
it has to
breaking
do
3
that
new
in one go.
records,
It will
but
start
we'll tell you more
for
about that
first
later.
time, and
This
that's it.
evening, we
It
have
will go
2
on till
passengers on
fuel
board
depletion. So
SES-17,
it will
developed for the operator SES, and
get into the
SYRACUSE
parking
4A
orbit
by the
as well as
French
raise its
Defense
apoapse at
Procurement
the same time.
Agency, both
So
designed by Thales
yeah,
Arainespace,
that is
that
the
are
thing.
now comfortably installed inside the launcher,
And
and
this
like
is how
us,
the payload
eagerly
will
waiting for
look like.
liftoff.
So this
Well, all the
payload, if
teams are
you
on
see,
site from
has this
Arianespace, the
black
CNES
covering.
and ESA,
This is what
and
they call
currently
as
working
Silda.
on the
It is
finer
also like a
details of the
payload
mission.
adapter for the
But now
second
my colleague
satellite, because
Baptiste is
obviously
linking
how
up
will
with
you
Stefan
separate these two
Israel
satellites if
in
you are
Kourou, and I'll
carrying both
translate
of
for
them?
our
You can't just
English-speaking
place one satellite
audiences.
over the other. That's not how it works. You need to have some
Good
support
evening,
structure.
Stefan.
So
Welcome
this
to
is
Road
the
to
Silda,
Space.
which actually comes in handy there. Here
Very
you can see
happy to
this
see
is
you
how it
tonight
looks
for this
like.
launch.
In
I see
this
behind you that all the
inside this
teams are
will
at
be
their
the first
stations
payload, and
and
above
ready
it
for
will
this
be the
new
second
Ariane
payload.
5 launch.
And
What
yeah,
can you
this
tell us
is how
about
it
this
looks
next
like, the
mission?
first payload and the second payload. Now talking
This
about
is
the
our
payloads, let's have a look
11th
at the
launch of the
payloads,
year.
right?
We are in the Jupiter space room.
Just a sec.
It's the second with Ariane 5.
Okay. So this is the
We will be
SES
placing 2
17
passengers into
satellite,
geostationary
and this
transfer
is, you can
orbit.
see, a pretty
SES-17,
huge
a
satellite.
telecommunications satellite for the
I
operator
mean, from
SES,
this
and SYRACUSE
looks
4A, a
of this,
telecommunications
we can
satellite
see that
developed for the
this is
French
quite
Ministry
huge.
of Defense.
And
The 2 passengers,
this
although
is a
very different, were
telecommunication
manufactured by
satellite,
Thales
okay? And
Arainespace,
this
and
is
this
the
will be the
largest geo satellite
164th and
built for
165th
SES,
satellites
SES
manufactured by
17,
Thales
and also the
Arainespace
largest such
we put
satellite
into
ever built
orbit.
by
But tonight,
Arianespace.
it is a
It is designed
record-breaking
to work
night.
together with other satellites from the medium Earth
VA255 was
orbit
also set
constellation
new
known
records.
as
It will be the highest and most
O3b
powerful Ariane
Empower.
5
SES
ever
17 will
operated
provide
by
mobile internet
Arianespace.
services to
And above all,
passenger
with a
aircraft over
combined
the America
satellite
and
mass
the
of
Atlantic Ocean. So yes,
10,263
because of this
kilograms, we
satellite,
will
you will
launch the
get
heaviest payload
internet
ever placed in
in
geostationary
your
transfer orbit.
planes
This is a
when you
world
travel through
record.
planes. So is that a plus point? Yes, because we know
And now we're going to beat
how
3 records
the
tonight.
pre-installed content
Thank you very much,
on the
Stefan.
aircraft's
What a program
TV
tonight.
is.
I
So
see that the
like
pressure is
that is
slowly
not
building
good.
up, so
We
we
need
won't
our
keep you
own
any longer. Thank you
entertainment,
so
right?
much,
So it would
Stefan.
be very
Have a
good
fantastic
if we can
launch.
have
And
that
to help us understand all the
you know,
finer
internet
details
connection
of
during
this
our
very
flight.
special launch,
So this satellite will enable
I
that. So
have
this
with me
is like the greatest satellite which is ever being flown, for me at least, because I have very bad experience with the content being shown in the aircraft. So yes, that is the thing. Thank you, SES 17. Okay, the next one which is being flown is this. This is known as SYRACUSE 4A. This is the first in the set of 2 military communication satellites. So first one which I showed you was a civilian satellite. This is a military satellite, and this will extend the French fleet of military communication satellites, which currently consist of 2 satellites, four satellites to 5 satellites. And this will have, you know, since this is the military satellite, so we don't have much of the information regarding it. So these are the 2 satellites going in, and yes, get ready for some good entertainment in airplanes. Okay, now let's have a look at this mission description and flight profile. So this is the upper stage. You can see, okay, so you can see the when the upper stage ignite here, you can see it just go on till fuel depletion and raise the apoapse from here to the geosynchronous transfer orbit. And perigee altitude is 250 kilometers, apogee is around 35,200 kilometers, and it is going to geosynchronous transfer orbit. So you can see the inclination is very close to 0, which is 6 degrees. Okay.
4 years ago, before the
And
launch services
here
contract
the
was signed with our
SES-17
customers,
lifetime is
we did
15
the
years.
necessary analysis to
Mass
check
at
the
launch
feasibility of the
6.4
launch and
tons,
to offer
and
to our customers
the
the
military
best.
satellite is also lifetime
So to
15
better
years,
understand the key
and mass
phases of this
is
flight, we have a couple of
3.8
images
tons.
up on our screen,
So
which are
this
coming up in a
is
couple of
how
minutes,
that
that
will
we'd
look
like you to
like. This is
comment
the
on.
flight
They
profile.
should be coming up any
Liftoff,
minute
and then
now.
the solid rocket boosters will separate, and this is the first stage is like has a pretty long
Here we
burn.
go.
Yes.
So the
we will be
fairing
launching
jettison will
from
happen, and the main stage
Kourou
actually
in
separates at around
northeastern coast
T
of South
plus
America.
8
The
minutes or so. So
liftoff,
it burns for around 8
we
minutes
will
for
start by
the core
igniting
stage,
the main
and
engine,
then the
vulcan
second
engine,
stage
and then the two
separates, and
solid
then the
boosters.
second stage
At
burns for
7
around
seconds after
whatever
80,
time it
this
has to
will
burn,
lift off
and then the
launcher.
first satellite will
After that,
separate,
we will
then
have
the
a
Silda
vertical
will
climb,
separate,
we
and
will
then the
start
third satellite will
rotating.
separate. Obviously you
We
need
will
to open
perform
up
a
the cover
gravity
before you
turn,
expose the second
progressively
satellite
tilting
to space.
the launcher.
So this is
At
how
2
everything
minutes and
will
19 seconds, we
look
will have
like.
booster
So
separation.
yes,
And
now let's
shortly
see.
after that, in
There
a
we'll
minute later,
have,
we will
yeah,
have
we
the
do have the
separation of the
coverage.
fairing.
So let
This will
me
happen once we have
move on
reached
to that.
a high enough altitude so that the fairing is no
The payload for this launch is
flight will continue towards the east, towards the equator.
10.3 tons.
8 minutes after
Okay.
liftoff, 8 minutes and 40
Moving on.
seconds, the main
There you
engine
go.
will cut off, and the main stage will separate from the rest of the launcher. The upper stage engine will ignite, and we will go across the Atlantic for about 15 minutes, and then at about 25 minutes 40 seconds after launch, we will have the shutdown of the engine and the injection in the targeted orbit.
So both of them are the communication satellite. One is the civilian one, which will enable internet during your plane journey, and the second one is the military telecommunication satellite. So we don't know much about it.
Of the SES-17 satellite, which is the upper passenger in our launcher today. This will happen at 29 minutes after liftoff. After that, we will perform some additional maneuvers to separate the Silda, the double launch structure, and this will happen at 36 minutes. And a couple of minutes later, after giving the satellite the right orientation, we will separate Syracuse 4A. After that, the stage will continue by performing some passivation maneuvers that will empty the tanks and that will reduce the lifetime in orbit.
So what are we seeing here?
This is, yes, the end of the maneuvers.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you so much. Well, we're going to follow this flight very closely tonight. But before that, we are keeping a close eye on the green panel, which is on the right of the screen, an indispensable piece of information throughout the different phases of the mission. So, David, tell me, what happens if one of the lines or the lights of the panel up there on the screen turn to red? What happens?
Yes, indeed, this panel gives real-time information on different parameters, the weather conditions, the launch base, the launcher, and all other means that are necessary for the launch, the satellites as well. If one of these lights turns red, it means that there is an anomaly that has been detected and needs to be corrected.
And Stefan Israel, we spoke to him earlier on how this launch is a very, very special one. Can you expound on this? I think we're breaking 3 records tonight.
That's right. First of all, performance. The 2 satellites under the fairing have a combined mass of 10,263 kilos, which is a new world record for a GTO launch. The second is the mass of the upper part, including the carrying structures, which is more than 11.2 tons. And last but not least, the launcher is the tallest one ever launched, 56.4 meters for Ariane 5. We have added a 1.5 meter racing cylinder under the fairing.
So now we're going to be watching a story on SES-17, one of the satellites which is going up today in the Ariane 5 rocket. And we'll find out more about these satellites that are about to be put into orbit tonight. The SES-17 is a veritable, I love this word, veritable concentrate of technology that we'll find out more about in this new report.
Okay, so right now This
be
is
coming up
good
in
that we have
minutes,
at least the views of the rocket
seconds.
for this launch. So, yeah, that is great.
SES-17. 6,400 kilograms of mass and 46 meters wide, SES-17 is the same height as the Statue of Liberty without its base. This satellite is one of the largest satellites ever launched in space by Arianespace. Built in Europe by Thales Alenia Space, the satellite will be operated by SES, a global company headquartered in Luxembourg. This spacecraft will travel through space to reach its destination, 36,000 kilometers above our heads. It will be the first fully Ka-band satellite owned by SES in geostationary orbit. A few days ago, one of our journalists met Steve Kourou, CEO of SES, to learn more about SES-17.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. SES-17 really represents the most modern of technology. It's huge, it's powerful, but it's also incredibly flexible. I think it's a satellite that is going to change the market for SES and change the market in the Americas.
This satellite has one main goal: deliver high-speed connectivity to North and South America, the Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean region. Gone are the days of being unreachable when traveling. Nowadays, travelers expect to stay connected at every step of their journey, whether that's at sea or in the air. SES saw a need to build a satellite that would deliver connectivity to where it was demanded most, starting with commercial planes. And to do so, the company from Luxembourg has worked with close partners.
But what was unique about SES-17 is the fact that not only it involved very, very close work with Thales Alenia Space and Arianespace, but also with Thales Avionics, a customer for the satellite. And so you had this really integrated team approach, taking into account the manufacturer, the operator, but also the customers and the end users.
During SES-17's construction, more than 1,900 employees were mobilized in the Thales Alenia Space manufacturing facilities. All these partners developed a high-powered satellite that would be able to deliver high-speed internet consistently to air passengers no matter where the planes are, thanks to the Thales in-flight experience. Craig Olson, Vice President of Connectivity Solutions at Thales Avionics, was interviewed by our journalist.
Thales in-flight experience really is merging together our capabilities in in-flight entertainment, connectivity, and managed services that can bring a holistic experience to the user, whether it's in terms of having connectivity to their personal device or where our customers have seatback displays on board their aircraft and remain connected to their world.
Travelers will be able to use the Wi-Fi as if they were at home, HD streaming, playing video games, watching television, or posting on social media.
And what we're finding is that users want to see that experience that they can enjoy in their living room extend to wherever they go outside their home. And this includes in commercial aircraft space, aboard airplanes.
The satellite is also able to deliver connectivity services for other applications and markets, such as maritime for commercial shipping and cruise, energy sector for offshore platforms, and mines in remote areas, as well as governments and enterprises across the Americas. The satellite will also bring connectivity to the underserved areas in the region and help accelerate digital inclusion programs.
With SES-17, we have the capability to change the lives of populations in Latin America who up to this point have been unconnected or underconnected. And so what we're going to be able to do with SES-17 is connect villages, towns and rural populations so that they have the same access to education, to business and to be socially connected.
But SES-17 brings even more innovation into space.
So there's a really important component on board the spacecraft, which is essentially a very capable router. And what that allows us to do is connect every single customer and every single link on board the satellite with every other one. And we call it the digital transparent processor. And that's the thing, that's really the heart of this satellite.
The DTP will enable high flexibility features such as easy frequency conversions, as well as unlimited gateway switching and traffic routing to meet dynamic data demands. SES-17 also has a space brain in its ground system that can automatically allocate the amount and type of connectivity the application will require, bringing even more flexibility to the satellite. This space brain can also be connected to SES's next generation satellites operating in a different orbit, making it the first of its kind in the world. In just a few minutes, SES-17 will leave for its great journey to space on board the Ariane 5 rocket. And in a few months, the satellite will be ready to connect communities and businesses across the Americas.
Isn't it cool? I mean, right now it will be limited to America,
Well,
but
we've learned that in this
hopefully
report
it will
that SES-17 is the most
have
modern
the global
technology.
coverage.
It's game-changing. But David, more than that, we know that SES-17 is equipped with a system that is unique in the world. And that will be put into orbit tonight for the first time. And you know it more than I do, the MPL, mechanically pumped loop. So this is an active thermal control system developed by Thales Arainespace with ESA and CNES, which allows the heat generated by the satellite's equipment to be evacuated to the cold zones and then into space. So David, what is the advantage of this system?
Yes, Emma. So one of the difficulties of space is managing the temperature, because you have extreme variations depending on whether you are facing the sun or not. Mm-hmm. So with this new innovative system, SES-17 is able to better manage this temperature, allowing it to integrate more powerful equipment which dissipates more heat. So the super powerful payloads we are launching tonight are possible thanks to this system.
As we learnt as well, weighs in at 6 tons. It is the first NEO weighing in at over 4 tons launched by Arianespace. What modification did you have to carry out to ensure that the launcher was able to carry out this mission?
Yes, this satellite is the largest one of the Space Bus NEO family to be launched by Arianespace. But not only it's a heavy bird, but it's also a large one in terms of volume. So in order to have enough volume, we are using the short version of the Silda structure, which is less than 5 meters. And the satellite itself has been designed to fit perfectly inside this volume.
Okay, well, tonight, a second satellite will be sent into orbit. It is called SYRACUSE 4A. SYRACUSE 4A is a concentrate of technological, it's very late here, innovations, and was developed by the French
it's very early here.
Agency and manufactured by
I woke
Thales
up at 4
Arainespace.
today to
It
stream this
inaugurates
launch.
the new generation
And
of
hi David, hi Lee
being
Austin.
built to secure
Let's
jamming-resistant
hope this
payload
launch is
communications
successful.
between the different military units on land, in the air, and at sea, and with the command center. And in a couple of seconds, we will be watching a report on this absolutely amazing satellite, SYRACUSE 4. So let's find out more in this report coming up now. Observing, listening, communicating, moving, fighting. Satellites are essential for the conduct of military operations. Operating in space is vital. Today, with the advent of SYRACUSE 4A, a new page in history is being written for the French Ministry for the Armed Forces and Military Space Telecommunications. Developed by the French Defense Procurement Agency in conjunction with the National Center for Space Studies and by Thales Arainespace and Airbus Defence and Space, SYRACUSE 4A is the first military telecommunications satellite and part of a new constellation of 3 satellites. Its role? To connect different military units in all weathers, whether on land, at sea or in the air, on a daily basis and while on the move. Operations are often in locations where no secure and reliable communications infrastructure exists, such as in the East or in the Sahel region.
Pour agir efficacement, les forces armées ont besoin de préparer leur action. Donc elles doivent planifier l'opération, ensuite elles doivent conduire l'opération et enfin évaluer l'efficacité de leur action. Toutes ces activités nécessitent des communications permanentes et fiables et seules les télécommunications spatiales apportent cela. SYRACUSE constitue le noyau dur des télécommunications spatiales, c'est-à-dire un système de communication sécurisé, maîtrisé par les forces armées et durci contre les agressions extérieures. Et les atouts majeurs de la 4e génération de SYRACUSE sont l'augmentation des débits atteignables, une connectivité et une flexibilité de la charge utile qui permet d'adapter les débits, les zones de couverture, les services au profit des forces armées.
To accompany the satellite, the French Defence Procurement Agency has begun the upgrade of its ground segment. From Earth, it will be able to control satellites and ensure secure communications. Syracuse 4A will enable the majority of naval vessels and armoured vehicles to connect while on the move, even certain aircraft such as the Griffon, a new French armoured vehicle, the Suffren, a French submarine, or the Phoenix, a new French Airbus. Once connected, they will be far more effective. For the construction of Syracuse 4A, the French Defence Procurement Agency contracted Thales Arainespace. For the last 30 years, this industrial group, based in Cannes in the south of France, with sites in Toulouse and in Europe, has been building satellites for the French government. Syracuse 4A is above all a fine example of French know-how. It embodies the high level of expertise of French governmental and industrial players in the space field, guaranteeing the country's independence. More than 400 people have been working on its design and construction for several years now. Thales Arainespace also teamed up with Airbus Defence and Space, who in turn work with more than 40 other subcontractors throughout France. A concentrate of innovations, Syracuse 4A will provide connectivity up to 3 times higher than its predecessors, thanks to 2 frequency bands.
Le système Syracuse est innovant notamment pour sa composante spatiale, puisque les satellites Syracuse 4 embarquent 2 innovations majeures. La première, c'est l'utilisation de la propulsion électrique. Donc on utilise des moteurs à plasma pour ces satellites-là. Moteurs à plasma qui sont issus d'une filière française et qui nous permettent d'embarquer une charge utile beaucoup plus performante parce qu'ils sont plus légers, plus compacts et donc on a de meilleurs résultats en orbite. La deuxième innovation, c'est l'utilisation d'un processeur numérique embarqué qui autorise une charge utile beaucoup plus flexible en termes de communication et donc une souplesse d'emploi pour le client final opérationnel.
Syracuse 4A also has the capacity to deal with military attacks by using anti-jam technology. In an environment where threats are diversifying and intensifying, access to and use of space must be preserved to guarantee France's sovereignty.
Le président de la République a souhaité doter la France d'une véritable stratégie spatiale de défense.
This is the aim of the new space defense strategy requested by France's president. A strategy that has given rise to Space Command, created in 2019 within the Air Force and the Space Ministry, and also to the Space Control Armament Programme, dedicated to space surveillance and satellite defense systems, all headed by the French Defense Procurement Agency. In a few minutes, Syracuse 4A will be launched aboard Ariane 5. This satellite will provide armed forces with next-generation secure command links. The Syracuse 4 constellation will be progressively completed, with the arrival of Syracuse 4B by 2023 and Syracuse 4C responding to the armed forces' need for connectivity. We've just been watching the report on Syracuse 4A, David, and it doesn't look like a very small satellite to me. How does it fit under the short cylinder which you mentioned earlier?
Well, what we have done is we have added a 1.5 meter racing cylinder under the fairing and the cylinder. In this way, we have increased the volume of Syracuse for Syracuse 4A, and at the same time, by using the short version of the cylinder, as I mentioned before, the volume available for the top position is sufficient for SES-17. So this shows the flexibility of the Ariane system to adapt to different customers.
So Syracuse 4A and SES-17, they both are using electric propulsion to reach their operational geostationary position. But what does this mean for the launcher, David, then?
So, yes, Emma, in fact, considering the high mass of the passengers today, the orbit targeted will not be a standard geostationary orbit, but an orbit with a slightly lower apogee altitude. This will not have a significant impact on the satellites in particular because they are using electrical propulsion. This is a highly efficient propulsion, meaning that the amount of propellant needed is much lower than with classical chemical propulsion. But to really answer your question, on the launcher side, this adds additional flexibility because the satellite is able to adapt to different orbits.
And I had another question for you. It's why is the liftoff scheduled so late, 10:01 local time in Kourou? Why did you opt for a late evening launch?
Yes, in fact, it's the electrical satellites need to have direct sunlight as soon as possible after the separation from the launcher in order to have energy as soon as possible to use their propulsion system. Therefore, with a launch at 10 p.m. local time in Kourou, they will be receiving the morning sunlight when they separate above the Indian Ocean.
Okay, well, that's clear for me. Well, in a few minutes, Syracuse 4A and SES-17, as we say, will take off into space on board Ariane 5 to reach their final destination. Yes, David, some 36,000 kilometers above our heads. The launcher, however, began its preparation campaign journey on the 2nd of September. We have some footage of the campaign, and David, I'd like you to talk it through with us. We have some edited images, which are going to be coming up on our screen in the next 10 seconds or so. And here we go.
Yes, so the launcher arrived in Kourou by boat, crossing the Atlantic. It took about 2 weeks to cross the Atlantic. Once at the harbor in Kourou, it was transported on these big containers on the road and up to the launcher assembly building that you see here, where the teams of Ariane Group started the assembly. You see here the main cryogenic stage with the Vulcan engine, and it is lifted out of its transport container, lifted on top of the building. And then it is integrated on top of the 2 solid boosters that you see here coming out of their preparation building and being transported into the launcher assembly building. You will see the 2 boosters here coming into the second one coming into the building, and once this lower part is integrated, then we have the upper stage that you see here that is put on top of the launcher. Once the launcher is completed, there is a series of tests, electrical tests, fluidic tests that are performed to make sure that everything is good. After that, the launcher comes out of the launcher assembly building and moves a few hundred meters to the final assembly building that you see on the left. Where the satellites are waiting to hop on the launcher. The satellites have been prepared in parallel, and they are integrated with the fairing that you see here, and then everything is put on top of the launcher. Once this is done, the launcher is ready, and so the day before the launch, the launcher comes out of the final assembly building and is pushed into the launch zone where the countdown starts.
So it's not only the launchers have made this long journey, these satellites have also made a long journey to get there. SES-17 left the clean rooms of the Thales Arainespace.
Hey, the Tonk, yes, I am good, and we are T-minus 9 minutes until the liftoff. Everything is looking good. You can see everything is green, which is what we want to see, which is a great sign, and let's hope this mission is successful.
What about the security conditions? Are they reinforced when launching a military satellite? And what are the ramifications for the launch pad in Kourou? Can you talk to us about that?
Yes, Emma. So at the Guiana Space Center, there are, of course, stringent security measures, and it is even more the case for sensitive government satellites as it is the case today. So the satellites are continuously monitored by the customers. They are in limited access zones at all times. And of course, as usual, the Space Center is closely guarded by the French military on the ground, at sea, and in the air, and in particular as we get closer to the launch.
And yes, and we are very close to the launch. We're only a few minutes away from liftoff. So what is happening to the satellites at this time? What are they up to? Are they being looked after?
Yes.
They have a nanny.
Yes, a few minutes before launch, the satellites are sitting comfortably on top of the launcher. The satellites need to keep temperatures within certain limits for their systems to work correctly once in orbit, the propellants, the batteries. So we are now making sure that all these conditions are ready for launch.
So now we're waiting for, thank you very much, David, for that explanation. Now we're waiting for the confirmation of the synchronized sequence from the DDO. The DDO is the Director of Operations in Kourou. Why do we need this announcement?
It's an important announcement because it indicates the start of some important operations just before launch.
Oh, we can hear him. We can hear him in the background.
Right, we just had the confirmation.
Just had the confirmation. 7 minutes. We've just had the confirmation. So we've just heard from the DDO, Director of Operations in Kourou. He has just confirmed the start of the synchronized sequence. Now, how exciting is that? David, can you explain to us what this means and why this moment, well, you're going to explain to me again why this moment is so important.
Yes, it's the start of the last operations before launch, meaning that if for some reason the countdown stops, we have to come back to this 80-7 minute mark. So at this point, the final operations are performed. For example, we are pressurizing the tanks to the final pressure that is needed for flight. We are closing all the filling lines. And in a few minutes, just a few minutes before launch, the control of the operations will be handed over to the launcher onboard computer, who will control the last events, including the ignition and the engine, the ignition of the engines for liftoff.
So everything is controlled from the Jupiter Control Center, or as I know it's called, the fishbowl, where all the operators are focused on the job at hand. But how would you describe the atmosphere in the control room at this stage of the operations, only minutes away from our launch?
Yeah, right now everyone is obviously fully focused on what they're doing. It's now up to the launcher to confirm that all the parameters are expected. And the green panel is closely monitored. And yes, indeed, we see
So
that
we do have one red here. Let's hope they can resolve
on the
it.
right-hand side on the green panel, there's a red come up. What does that mean?
Yeah, so it's a red on the launch zone. So we will check.
What does that imply then?
It means that there is something that is not as expected. And so, yes, we have, for the time being, a red light for the launch.
Okay, so we have another red light. So I don't think so it is going anytime soon.
We have a very large window today, so we will check what the anomaly is and come back as soon as...
Well, while they're working that out, I just wanted to ask you a bit about the Jupiter room. We can hear the DDO in the background. It was inaugurated, sorry, it is very late for us here in Paris, in 1996 during Ariane's 82nd launch. It's built like an amphitheater. The public is seated around a wall, which projects images enabling people to experience the launch live. Can you talk to us about that? I'm sure you've been there and felt it.
Yes, you're right. The Jupiter room is indeed a very good place to watch the launch. People can walk outside to see the launch live, and then all the screens in the control room provide the launcher parameters during the ascent. And yes, in this room, besides the general public who is invited to the launch, there's all the launcher authorities who are there, from CNES, ESA, Arainespace, as well as
yes,
all
sorry.
So
Red is bad, and we can see we are T-7 minutes and holding. Although we have like 2 hours of launch window, so we'll have to wait and see how things will progress.
So the top line, yes, is the launch, the go for launch, the authorization for launch, which is, I would say, is green when everything else is green. So right now, this explains why it is red. So
we definitely are having some technical difficulty in the launch zone. That's what the red part indicates. And launch zone, I guess that means that we have some problem with ground supporting equipments. And the launch on 23rd was cancelled. Sorry, 22 was cancelled because we had some problems during the GSE operations only, and now again we have some problem with GSE, so we'll have
So
to
we
wait
now
and
see
see
that
how
the
things will
counting has
progress.
stopped, that there are two red lights. So we're going to leave you for the moment and then come back when we find out what has gone on, and we will be back with you shortly. So for this very, very special flight, we just need some time for the technical teams in Kourou to find out what the problem is. See you soon. See you then. Bye-bye.
Okay, so uh just a sec, let me just update everything here so that we know what is going on, right? Just a sec, give me a second. Hold. So, no, there is no range violation. I guess there is no range violation indication during the final chronology. See, uh, this launcher was supposed to launch yesterday, okay? And during the launch operations, the launch preparations, they found some issue with the ground supporting equipment only, and yeah, they found some issue and then they decided to not continue with the launch. They resolved it and then finally they issued the launch date as today. Now again, uh, that red which you just saw was because of the violations in the launch zone. So launch zone violations, maybe it could be range, but I guess there the as the host was indicating, it is some sort of technical issue. So launch zone is basically the ground supporting equipment zone, and technical issue with it means there is some problem with ground supporting equipment, which was there during the last yesterday's launch attempt too, and they resolved it. But again, now it now happened. We don't know what actually it is. So, uh, if you have any questions, you can ask me, and then we'll see if we have any other updates. Uh, what's going on? It's not the ending credits. So it's like I have updated the status. It's hold. Right now we are red for the launch. We had a green panel, now we are red for the launch. So let's have a look at the official statement from Arianespace so that we can get a look at how things are progressing. Okay. uh yeah, So what does this mean actually? This ensemble the lancement. If we have anyone Spanish here, sorry, is this Spanish? No, this must be French. If we have anyone French here, can understand it because this was the thing which went red. We can use the translate also. Ensemble the yes, French to English. Launch set. Okay. Launch set. What is launch set? The launch set means the s- the actual set. So I guess I am right with my guess of there is some issue with the ground supporting equipment because this means launch set, and I guess that is what it does mean. We do have something for coming in from SpaceX. Whoa. Okay. I guess they have released this video to get some good vibes in FA public. Coolest shot. The best SpaceX, I should say the Starship advertisement which we have seen. So yeah, the gateway to Mars. Did you like this, guys? Uh okay, so we have some, I think ensemble means like together, not scrubbed yet. So total launch readiness. Okay. Total launch readiness. Okay, cool. Fine. So total launch readiness and actually that means something related to ground supporting as well as maybe the launcher itself. So we'll have to wait and see how the things. Why is it only SpaceX and the Russians that can launch on time? That is not the case actually. This delay, if you have been in this industry, the watching industry, the launch watching industry, this is our industry. Yes. So you must be knowing that the delay is evident for almost all launches, and as space nerds we should have that patience in us to witness the launch, because this happens in space industry when it comes to rocket science. That was pretty badass, exactly. So Elon said maybe launch season 20. Wow. Yes, I've been watching many web series recently, so season 20 is what I have been guessing for S20, right? Yeah, Ship 20 next month is what Elon is hoping to do. As he said, there are not many technical, hurdles left to make that possible. The only thing which is worrying is that FAA approval. And once they get that, well, they should be on their way. And right now, I don't know what is wrong with people. I would say this only, like, uh, there was one guy, or there was one guy, yeah, who was like, who literally said that building a launch site in Boca Chica was like environmental racism. I don't know what does that even mean. And that's why it is actually, because no matter how we love SpaceX and Starship, but I think residents near the Boca Chica are not very much uh, inclined to the fact that there will be a launch site. We'll have to wait. And yeah, so have this update from Arianespace. The final countdown is on hold due to red indication during the final chronology. That's what we have. Yeah, and we don't know when it will start again. Wow. And yes, there was one fire inside the Chinese space station. The barbecue inside the Chinese space station. You can see that in front of you, right? This is what China can do, right? Literally, they did a barbecue in space. They did a barbecue in space, right? It is believable, right? Okay. See, that's what I was actually hoping to making. That's why we saw that video today. Your support makes a big difference. Please let me know your opinion. So I guess Boca Chica, Texas as a launch site is not being preferred mostly by people. So that's why Lon has requested. So you can do that if you have that, if you meet that eligibility criteria, you can do that by uh, going on to this link or maybe should I just, this is the document and this is, I guess, the form. So you can read the document as well as fill the form for some positive comments on the Texas launch site, because that's what we are looking for, right? And no, that's not real. I thought many people will fall for that. I initially fell for that, but again, I just, what should I say, had looked closely and then saw that yes, that is photoshopped. And we can even see some those effects of fire in microgravity, because fire behaves differently in microgravity, was not seen in this picture. Yes, fire is like the last thing you want in space. When you are in space, fire is the most dangerous thing you can expect during your journey in space. So it just creates smoke as well as does some thing you don't want, and the what. So we are just waiting. I don't know how long this wait will go on. Okay, so yeah, this is just the Photoshop, but again, right now we are not go for the launch. Right now it is not launching. So guys, what do you want? Is this blocks of 2 launch vehicles delivered? Point 1B. Okay, so use 1B 2 pairings. Fully arrived stages of carrier rockets will operate on 2 type of fuel. Naphthyl. Okay. Is this Soyuz? No, this is not Soyuz. What? Don't know. Naphthyl fuel. So they are on to something. The first flight of R7, Russia will fire a Soyuz which uses, it is a Soyuz which uses naphthyl instead of usual T-1 aviation kerosene. Cool. So rather than RP1, we will be seeing some naphthyl in action for some Soyuz launches. Would love to see how the plume will look like. Want to watch the Long March 3B launch? Well, you can't see that, unfortunately. That's how Chinese launch industry works. So if there was some valid source for the Long March 3B launch, which is happening right now, yes, 30 seconds. We would have I would have switched over to that, even did the live stream for that right now. This is completely badass. This is completely badass. I'm saying you. And this footage is the best. It's the shot of the year for me. This drone footage and this zoom level. Wow. Okay. Uh, so right now, if you have anything, you can ask me. No matter it is not restricted to this topic only. You can ask me anything right now. So much for joining in, JZ Dutchman. I mean, I literally woke up at 4 today. Yes, this is not a very good time for me. These early, I am first of all a night owl, not a early bird. So these early morning wake up calls for streaming is very, very painful for me. And yeah, I woke up at 4 and did all the streaming work, and then finally came to you. And mostly when I just woke up, or I have whatever streams basically I have done during the early morning launch, my commentary is not good enough at that point of time, just because I'm still at that state where I'm half awake, half asleep. So yeah, as the host in the live stream of the Arianespace is having some issues with the commentary because it is late at night. Same issue is being uh, there for me because it is early in the morning. I guess she is early bird, but I am night owl here. Okay. Uh, no, I'm not going because still, again, guys, if you are just, for your information, FYI, the rocket which you are seeing here in your screen, the views of the rocket, that is actually, those are the live views. If you can see, we can see those fumes coming out of the rocket. So don't get distracted by the fact you are having some credits going on in the screen, but the views are actually the live views. And we have like 2 hour launch window for today's launch. So I guess we'll have to wait and see how the things will progress. Eat your barbecued first, Jay-Z. Well, I need to eat something. I haven't eaten something, and it is like when I don't eat, I can't speak. This is how the thing goes with me. Okay. So, what are the launches which are scheduled in this coming week or in this Scrubtober? Because this October is actually very famous for scrubbing the rocket launches. There have been quite a few launches which have been scrubbed in this Scrubtober month. And the best of all was the NROL 44 mission of Delta for Heavy. Man, that was scrub was the most intriguing of all. Okay. So we have again the couple of Chinese launches which we won't be getting any live stream. We have one Japanese launch. We have one Soyuz launch coming up. So two are for sure. Astra is also looking forward for one more launch. Whoa! And we saw what happened during the last launch, right? Their TVC just did some out of the world maneuvers there and just saved the rocket. So let's hope this time Astra is able to achieve what they want to achieve. 20th October is their tentative date. Starlink is also being planned for that. There's one more Japanese launch, and Crew 3 mission on 31st October is also planned. So yes, we do have some launches left. I mean, a few launches left. 4 to 5 launches. Okay. Have some more sounding rocket launches. Yes. So there is one sounding rocket launch which was supposed to happen and break the European student world record. But I didn't stream that, and I was, lucky also at that I didn't stream that. First of all, they were, since this is a sounding rocket launch, so there is not a proper launch window, and this is a student rocket launch. So there will be many scrubs and delays in it, and there were like 3 straight days of scrub of around 6 hours of live stream, and then finally their launch window commenced or ended, and now we'll have to wait and see when they will again launch. It was a very I can see the excitement in all those the team which was involved there in the live stream, but unfortunately they weren't able to launch because of some technical issue with oxidizer filling, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. Talking about other sounding rocket launch, we do have some sounding rocket launch from NASA Wallops, which uh, comes up time to time, but there have not been some activity. No, there has not been any activity recently. NASA Wallops. So I don't know when we will be having launch next. And since this Arianespace is having some issues with technical issues, rather, I should be more specific with that. JWST should be panicking in corner, right? No, don't get me wrong. Ariane 5 is a very capable rocket. It has like 100% record, if I'm not wrong, since the time it was actually put into place, not the testing time. So yes, Ariane 5 is. I think there was one partial failure. Other than that, Ariane 5 is a pretty reliable rocket. But this thing scares me. So I guess I'll go eat something now so that I will be able to comment more and be more energetic. So I'll go eat something. Till then, maybe just what should I say? See the live views of the rocket. Yes, the views are live there in front of you. So stay tuned. We might have the heaviest rocket launch for Ariane 5 coming up very soon. So let's hope they are able to resolve the issues. We do have like 2 hour launch window. So yeah. Yes, I do check up that site from time to time, but right now we don't have anything coming up from there. So yeah. This song might help. Let's have this song running and wait for the any further updates. And let me eat something. I'll be back as soon as I'm finished. Okay. So stay tuned for this beautiful launch to come up. Okay, guys, I think what I should do is, since we don't know when it will come back, so I guess I can end this stream right now and come back again when this thing resolves. Maybe that should be option, or I should end this stream at least. And if I have any other update, as soon as I have another update, I'll come back again. Okay, so thank you all for joining in, and let's hope we get to see this launch today. And right now it's still on hold, no other update. We still have 2-hour launch window, so that's a plus. So as soon as I have any other update, I'll come back. I'll again start this stream. Okay, till then, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll meet again in some time.